So hi everyone. I will take the mic maybe. Test? Yeah, it's cool. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Tatiana Vilela and I design Playful installations. I'm a game designer. I'm specialized in dedicated controllers and rendering devices. There is people paying for me to do this, that's cool. And I think both are really linked. I mean, dedicated controllers and dedicated rendering devices. I will tell you why later. I will tell you how it led me to see Sensation as a new game space. But first, how did I start this thing about dedicated controller? So I've always been interested in perception, as a lot of people like trance and psychedelic stuff, you know. So my first game was Lachi. I mean, my first not buggy game was Lachi. It was in 2012, and it's a 3D digital maze with optical illusion. So it was cool, but I was quickly limited by the visual aspect of the perception. So I decided to make dedicated controller. So in 2013, I've made a game called Oart. It's this one. So it's basically an avoider game with a pod racer, but the player has two light bars and he moves his hands along the light bars to move the pods of the vessel, of the pod racer in the screen. So it was cool because people got the feeling that they could feel the light, the heat of the light, while it's actually LED light, so it's a cold light. But despite of this, people was really focused on the screen and not on this new controller, so it was a problem for me. So I decided to make dedicated rendering devices. So, as I love dedicated controllers and rendering devices, I will try to convince you to do so. But first I will tell you why you shouldn't. No, I'm kidding. I will tell you what are the fears of people that tries to make dedicated controllers. Well, of course, there is the time of development, because you need to do the development of the software and the hardware. There is the skills and the knowledge about dedicated controllers. How all this electronic stuff will work, I don't know, I don't want to do this, it seems complicated. The costs, of course, it doesn't grow on trees, so you got to buy the stuff. And about the experience, there is two stuff. The master of the experience, because it's hard to know how people will use your controller. It's hard to know how people will use your game, so if you make a new controller, it's harder. And identify gameplays for these new controllers. It's new toys actually, so what gameplays would fit this controller? The last thing is how to distribute your game. So, for the three first aspects, I would advise to do low-tech stuff, simple gameplays, and use really simple devices. I brought one. Maybe if I have time at the end, I will show you how it works. It's called Verve. Maybe some people know it. It's a plug-and-play device with potentiometer, motion controller, light controller, temperature controller, a lot of stuff. It's only plug-and-play. You just tell your keyboard, okay, this is the A key, the B key, and you can program with this. It's really simple. That's not the only one, but it's an easy, really, really easy one. For the aspect of the experience, actually I think it's part of all the innovative experiences. Because when you make new experiences, it's always hard to know how people will react to these new gameplays. Will they understand what I mean? Will they understand how to interact? So I think if you're afraid of making new gameplays, actually you shouldn't do innovative stuff. The last one is maybe the harder. There is two stuff for the distribution. You need to find innovative environments. One of the environment I identify is the companies. There is a lot of companies that want to tell to their clients, hey, we're so technologic people, and actually they ask other game designers and developers to do stuff for them with new technologies, and then they show them to the clients. So it's a way to do it with money. But a way maybe more interesting is, of course, this kind of events, like the Amaze Festival, of course. That's amazing events to show new controller, because it's hard to ship the tangible components and all that stuff. So we really need events like this one. Thanks, Torsten. But why? So, why would you make it? Well, I think it's a real contribution to the whole world of gaming. Because there is what I would call a smoothing dynamic in the game design. Games are made for existing devices, existing controllers and existing rendering devices. So you need to make a game, you have to make a game that fits all these controllers and rendering devices. But also, these controllers are made for the games that are already existing. They're both polyvalent and ergonomic. Hey, hello, Adobe Reader. Yeah, woo. So, these controllers and rendering devices are made for the existing game. So actually, that's a really malevolent cycle because there is nothing new emerging from it. So I think it's a real contribution to the world of gaming. But how to do so? Oh, that's okay. This one is okay. Yeah. How to do so? Well, I identified 4 ways to do it. Maybe there is other, but these 4 ways are ways to do new controllers. So the first one is the easiest one, is to use innovative controllers. So like Oculus Rift, OpenVibe, of course, it's the easiest one. The second one, more interesting, I think, is the misuse of innovative controllers. I took an example that I really love. It's Edgar Rice Soirée, which is a game really interesting with several PlayStation moves that are hanging from the roof. And people, each player has a color, and have to grab the PlayStation move of the color. I'll let you see that on the internet. It's really interesting. So it's a misuse of the PlayStation move. I mean, it's not exactly how the PlayStation move should be used, has been thought. The third one is the misuse of everyday objects. I took an example that I also love. It's a Doom piano. It's literally playing Doom on a piano, so that's what's part of it. It's literally playing Doom on a piano. It's really interesting, but you can also make games for everyday objects. I don't know, take this chair, plug, I don't know, LEDs, buttons, and you make it turn, and you can do games for everyday objects. The fourth one is the one that I'm more interested in, of course. It's the dedicated controllers and rendering devices. So making devices specifically for your game. The example I took is Propinquity. It's an amazing game for 2 players in competition. They wear jackets with proximity sensors, and the point is to go as near as possible as to the proximity sensors of the other without touching it. So it's a game between dance and fight. It's beautiful to see, it's beautiful to play. But how did I come to dedicated controllers? Well, the first dedicated controllers and rendering device I've made, it was Atsono. The game is playable here at the MS Festival. It will be playable after the talks. It was made during a game jam, so in 48 hours, so it's possible to do it. And it was during the Art Game Weekend. The game is really simple, actually. 2 players are in cooperation, got 5 buttons on the body, and they got to press all the lead buttons simultaneously. So it makes a game a bit like a Twister game. It's funny to see, and it's really easy to make. So I told you that in OART, I got a problem with people focusing on the screen and not on the controller. In Atsono, there is not this problem. Well, of course, because there is no screen, but that's not the only thing I'd like to point. Of course, there is something more interesting regarding the gaming experience. It's the displacement of the game space. In the first case of OART, but in the case of the standard games, I would say, we got on the side a player with a controller, on the other side the rendering device, which is the screen, maybe speakers, but the screen mainly, and the game, the communication in the game happens between these 2 sides, of course, but everything in the game is rendered on the screen. For example, in OART, when you move your hands, the pods are on the screen. The enemy are on the screen. So everything happens in a virtual world. And this virtual world, of course, is in the screen. In the case of Atsono, or maybe Propinquity, it's the same case. In the second case, we got on each side 1 player with a controller and a rendering device, and that's the same object. The same object is the rendering device and the controller. So the game happens between the player the game happens in a tangible space, in the real space. It's not a virtual one. And as the game is between two players, it's a social game because it's two players, of course. So on this base, I ask myself what would happen if we have on the side a player and on the other side a device that is both the controller and the rendering device. And what I found is that the game seems to happen in the player's sensations. But before finding this, I took a look at games for blind people. Because games for blind people are almost always the same gameplay. It's usually based on sound, and it's about navigating in a 3D space with sound. So you got volume and spatialization. Volume will tell you if you're far or close to the enemy. For instance, you're close to the enemy, you hear the sound louder. If you're far from him, you will hear the sound lighter, of course. And the spatialization, just to know if the enemy is behind you, in front of you, at the left, at the right, okay. And what is funny with this example is that Mudsplat is one of them, is one of the famous game for blind people, excuse me. What is funny is even if there is no screen, people still project themselves in a virtual world. Okay, it's made of sound, but it's still a projection. The game is not happening in the tangible world. And I ask myself why. The second aspect of it is, when you play a game like this and you're not blind people, you just feel like you're handicapped. So, okay, it's cool, you can understand how blind people feel every day, but it's not really funny to play. I mean, it's cool, but not really funny. And I ask myself, why games based on sound like this wouldn't be funny, even for blind people? And I tried to do something. It's not translating something that is visual into something that is not visual. Because when we navigate in a space, not blind people of course, but we use a lot of vision, especially when you're on the screen. Because you don't have the touch, you don't have the sound really on the screen, you use mainly the vision. So actually navigating in a space is something really visual for us. So I tried to do something with sound that is based on the sound properties, really the sound properties. So I identified some of them, but there is other frequency, volume, pitch, high pass, low pass, a game only based like this, not a translation of it. And so I'm currently making a prototype based on this. It's a two-player game. The players are in competition and they got 3 lives, so there are 3 LEDs just to show the life. And it's really simple. There is a continue sound, and there is 1 button per player. When the player presses a button and the continue sound is under a certain frequency, he will just lose a life. If it's over this frequency, the other player will lose a life. So the point for the player, of course, is to press the button when the sound is under a certain frequency. And about the volume, it's just the same, but with earning a life. And actually it works very well, but there is no visual actually, because I can show a visual because it's only based on sound. I've made another prototype. This one has visual. It's only based on touch. So the prototype is called Tango. It's based on 5 little pillows with vibrating motors and pressure sensors. It's really simple. When a pillow is vibrating, the player has to press it, but the more it vibrates, the more you have to press it hard. So it's just based on this. And actually in these 2 prototypes, the player is completely focused on his sensation. Actually, almost all players close their eyes and just play focused on their sensation. So it works really. And what I'd like to do now for the next step of this research would be to do something like this, but maybe more complex, more rich, because it's really simple game. So what I'm designing right now, it's not done yet. I'm really in the design right now. It's something based on several sensations properties. So it's a game based on the Battleship game archetype, for 2 player, and in competition, of course, Battleship. And there is a vertical wall with it's vibrating, and it got lights, color, and actually the lights are the terrain that you gain, the area that you own. And oh yeah, and the wall, of course, you can touch it, so it recognizes where you touch the wall. And it's based on sound frequency, just to tell you the whole state game, the whole state of the game. Yeah. So it's just this: the more the frequency is high, and the more there is problem for the player. Let's say this. So if you want to know more about these researches, because I'm in the design, I take all the advices. You're all welcome. You can follow me on my website, Twitter, Facebook, anyway, what you want. Just give me advices. I would love to hear your stories about sensations in game. The talk is over. Thanks a lot. If you have any questions, that's cool.
Can you like turn the 2 pages back so people can get your contacts? Yeah.
Okay, it's all on the right bottom.
Oh yeah.
They're all there. I thought about it. I don't know if you have questions. Yeah?
Alright, you talk about virtual space and then real tangible space and how we should be thinking more about real tangible. But it strikes me that with something like the Oculus Rift or even earlier ARG games, often you sort of simultaneously exist in both. So is that something you've been thinking about?
There is something about the Oculus Rift, the specific case of the Oculus Rift, because it's hard to make something that is general. I definitely think we can make something in the tangible space with the Oculus Rift. But when we put something that is VR, that is virtual reality oriented, a lot of people just think virtual reality. But of course we can do so. The light wall I'm working on actually asks people to close the eyes. Because when you close the eyes and there is a color light, you can see the color, but you are not blinded by the light. So Oculus Rift could allow something like this. The second aspect, that was the first one I worked on, but I talked it about second anyway, was what happens a lot with Oculus Rift. Did you try the Omni? You know Omni of Microsoft, the stuff, yeah. There is something really funny with it. It's when it's really immersive. I totally agree, it's really immersive. But if you hit a wall that shouldn't be here, because in the game space it's not represented, you completely go out of the experience. Because it's so immersive that any little thing that reminds you that the real space is here and is around you completely make you go out of the experience. But that's something interesting to work on. Not just trying to put it away, well, we'll try to make it not happen. No, I think we should make it happen, because that's really interesting about perception, definitely. Any question? I can show you how verbs work if you have no question.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, cool. So I didn't prepare anything, just bring the verb, so you will see how it worked from the beginning. Okay, everyone see my messy? Okay, cool. So, verb is presented like this. It's just a box. I'm not working for the verb company. So, you got a box with a small gray box like this one, and some stuff to plug on it. And it's based on USB plug, so I will plug it now. Okay, I decided to plug the motion sensor. Now I have just to start the verb software. It comes in a small USB key, and then I just have to turn it off. And now, when I move it like this, okay, now when I move the controller like this, it's already running. I can just turn it off again and tell him, okay, here, turn it on. Okay, here is the letter A, or E, okay, here's cool. Here is the letter A was cool. Okay, letter A. So it will tell me when I'm here, it will know that the letter key is pressed. And in the top, it's the letter A. Okay, now I can just, I don't know, maybe make a game and something appears when there is A. I used to use Multimedia Fusion 2, which is a really accessible software. It's not non-program, it's not for coding people. So I just have to start a new application, tell him, okay, there is an object in my scene, insert an object, any object, I don't know, maybe a counter. Let's go with a counter. Okay, here we have a counter. And I will tell him minimum is 0 and maximum will be, I don't know, 10. And I will make it graphic because its numbers are not really funny. Okay, here we go with a bar. And now I will tell him, I don't know, when you get the A pressed, so when A, keyboard, press letter A, just add 1 to the counter. Okay, something really simple. Okay, 1. Let's see if it works. Launch the application. No, it doesn't, because it's... No, it doesn't. Add 1, A, okay. No, it won't. So you will have to believe me. No, it won't work. So okay, it works like this. So it's really easy. Okay, it sounds not that easy, but it's really easy. Believe me. Okay, do you have any questions? Yeah?
Is this verb thing durable? So like, can I kick it around and stuff? Will it be okay?
With the verb?
Is it durable? So can I like kick it around?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you should.
Which sensor were you using right now?
The motion one.
Oh, okay.
The motion sensor, so I just go like this and it works. There is other. I can show you maybe after, if you want. Okay? Other questions? No, we're okay? Maybe the time is running out, so I will go. Thanks a lot for your attention.